was a teenager, I remember really hating being single. It was like this big status symbol when we were 15 and 16 years old if you had a boyfriend or a girlfriend. I remember thinking that if I had a boyfriend, I would be happy, or that my life would be going so much better. And I was always really envious of my friends who had, like, a companion. Now that I'm older and only a little bit wiser from experience, I realize that being single is one of the best gifts you can ever have, because it's time to explore yourself, explore other people, really cultivate your own being. And then once you're there, you can find somebody to add to your existence. You're not tied down. But at the same time, you know, there are elements of being single that suck. Having security, having a partner that you can come home to every day, that feels really good. But being single isn't all bad now, is it? This is Coffee and Catastrophe with Brent and Gabi.
Ooh, so when I was, much younger, I used to look at being single as like getting pots and pans for Christmas when I was a kid.
What do you mean? Like the worst thing ever? Or just like super practical? Or like that's what you thought of?
So like when I was a kid, I wanted toys, I wanted games, I didn't give a shit about, pots and pans, socks, practical stuff. Whereas now, like I remember I got, like for 1 year, I got ramekins. And I was like, what the like, I don't know when I'm ever going to use the ramekins. Now I use ramekins legit every single week.
Like and you would use those pots and pans every day.
Yeah. So now, like, when I was younger, I used to always want a companion and all that stuff. But now it's, I didn't understand what being single meant. And that meant, being in a relationship with yourself.
Yeah, that's a really good distinction to make, is that like being single doesn't mean that you're absent of like all relationships, but rather you're just like in a relationship with yourself. I used to say like, I'm married to myself now. Like I'm focusing on me and doing what makes me feel good. And that's one of the best gifts that you can have.
I totally agree. If I am being 100% honest, though, a relationship is always something that I've always wanted in life and never understood it or got it. Mm-hmm. So I'm coming from a much different place to where I might as well say, like, all right, I know exactly what it's like to live a life without wings.
Oh.
Oh, God, that was too symbolic. That's not what I meant.
That was like really, really sad.
Okay. I know what it's like to live a life without having 4 arms. Like Goro from Mortal Kombat.
Over my head. Sorry.
Okay.
The only thing I know about Mortal Kombat is the theme song. Mortal Kombat.
Oh, that's a great song. But there's a character, his name's Goro, and he's got 4 fucking arms. Like imagine like his regular arms, but then underneath, like on his like obliques, there's just 2 arms coming out.
And that's like an asset to him?
Yeah, he's got 4 arms. Like, you try to punch him, he catches both of your fists with his lower arms, and then he'll just pummel the top of your head until you die with his other top 2 fists.
Oh, yeah, that seems convenient. Yeah.
So I don't know what it's like to live with 4 arms. Only Goro does. So, I mean, I'm just talking as an expert of being single.
Well, I don't think I'm, like, if you are the expert on being single, I'm sure as shit not an expert on being in a relationship. Just, when I was in high school, it was this weird thing. Like, I did always want, like, a boyfriend, or, like, I liked boys. And the way I, like, explored that and, like, my sexuality when I was a teenager was there was a local hookah bar that was all ages. It was a music venue. It was really cool. And I would go there, and I would go sometimes and just like find a dude to like talk with and like really connect with, and then we'd make out in the corner, and then then I felt good about myself and left. So I never had like a relationship in high school, and it was so funny. It wasn't till I was about like my second semester sophomore year, and then nothing my junior year, but senior year, and then that sophomore second semester, like boys just decided they liked me, like all of a sudden, coming out of the woodwork of my life. Like friends that I'd had were like approaching me and like, I like you, I want to be in a relationship with you. But the problem was that I was always like you're a really good friend of mine, and I don't want to lose like all we have as friends. And it's hard too, because when you broach that subject of like, I like you and want to be more than friends, you kind of scar the relationship, the friendship at least. It's hard to go back from that. And that's actually and even I've only had one serious relationship in my time, and it lasted a long time, and I learned a lot from it. So I'm definitely not an expert on relationships either, but I am learning like what it means to be like single and like 2018 dating, because I was on Tinder, now I'm not, and so that was a fucking learning experience for sure. That might be another whole episode might be on like dating in this modern life. But being single is kind of rad once you get over, like, you need to stop looking at it as like I'm alone and no one loves me. Instead, you have to look at it into like, I have all of this time to take care of myself, do the shit that I want to do, and make myself happy. You can't let yourself get into that space of like, oh my God, there isn't a person next to me in bed at night who kisses my face every time I go to sleep. You know what I mean? You can't look at it that way.
So I'm trying really hard to look at it the positive way. Like, okay, this is like going to be one of the better years of my life. But I'm still alone, nobody wants me, and I might as well be dead.
We made a promise on this podcast we weren't going to die till some age like 85, so you're not allowed to die alone. I mean, we all die alone, but let's not get into that.
So 85, so I got almost 54 more years.
Don't look at it like that. Don't look at it like that.
Of nobody giving a shit.
That's not true. But like, honestly, like, let's give some gravity to the fact that like it's really hard to not think about the fact that when you are single, you're single. You don't have that person every day to connect with or whatever. Also too, maybe you've experienced this as well, but at a certain point, like, people just like pair off with each other. Like, even at 25, like, all of my girlfriends are in relationships. Like, virtually everyone in my life has like some sort of serious commitment with an individual. And then, not that I'm not resentful of that, because again, like, I'm trying to really look at like, hey, I can like be my best self and do my creative shit. And like, you know, when this album comes out that I'm recording right now and I tour with it eventually, like, I don't have to worry about like my boyfriend back home who's gonna be worried about me or whatever, something like that. Although it's good to have someone to come home to. You know what I mean? So again, it's like, it is that mindset switch. But God, is it fucking hard, because our whole culture is obsessed with like love and relationships.
I agree with what you're saying. I can't say that I've had that mindset or that perception for most of my life, because most of my life I've had a lot of resentment. And I've actually been in that situation quite a few times where I was friends with somebody and then I admitted my feelings and then it nearly destroyed the entire friendship. And some of them it had. Yeah. But then there are a few people in my life who I'm still friends with, and we're like the best friends like ever now. And it's been like years, but it was really, 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 really hard to get to that point, because just looking at it from the other perspective, imagine like you're just friends with somebody and you think everything's just totally cool. And then one day they say, all right, I have all these feelings for you. And you're like, all right, I don't feel the same way. So now when you see them again, are you like, wait, are they only hanging out with me because they have feelings? Do they genuinely enjoy my company? What's going on here? Like, what was the friendship? Because like most friendships, there's a certain camaraderie shared, or a certain interest that's shared. You guys hang out, you have fun together, you make jokes, you know, whatever it is. And there's no preconceived notion or like context or anything that like, okay, because you're this, you need to give me that. Yeah. You know, so it's really, really hard to be in that position. But I would say I'm much better at giving advice like when it comes to that stuff than it does to be in a relationship, only because, you know, I see it as, if you really want to be friends with them, then it's not a loss if they don't want you, because you can still, like, you're friends with them. But if you can't take that, then you might as well, you just take the L and move on. Yeah.
And the problem is that we have had a culture that thinks that people can't be friends post-relationship. We also have a culture that like believes that if you're turned down once, you should try again and persist with that person, which is ridiculous. Like, yeah, sure, feelings do, or I should say, I don't say with certainty do. Feelings can change, but there's no chance, you know, if a person asks another person out, I want to date you. I like you like that. And the other person says, yeah, I don't feel that way about you. The worst thing you could do is like keep persisting and be like, no, I'm going to keep trying until you like date me. Like that's fucking ridiculous. But people do it a lot. And so I don't know. It's another thing that we have to like shift in our collective conscience is when someone says no, it means no, back off.
Reminds me of this movie I saw as a kid called 8 Days a Week. I don't know if it's even underground enough to be a cult hit. It was probably just a movie that was on HBO for a few weeks, and then they pulled it off. But it was about this one. It was the quintessential quote unquote nice guy story. Ugh. So nice guy likes girl. Girl wants nothing to do with nice guy. Girl is with asshole guy, and then at the end, nice guy gets the girl. So the movie I think he asked her out at the beginning of the movie, and then she said no, and then he was with another guy, so he tried to proclaim his love for her, and he stayed in her front yard every single day of the week, and he was just living in the front yard, and he never left that spot until he had her attention again. And then
that's a stalker.
Yeah, so he would come outside, she would come outside, she'd talk to him, and then eventually like they kissed at the end and all that shit. So I guess love persisted. I don't know if it was a remake or a retelling of like a classic or an older story, but when it just comes to that shit, it just if I'm being honest, I actually used to be the quote-unquote trademark nice guy. So, and that's still something that I'm not really too proud of with my past, but it was just the perception I had because I felt that my time deserved to be reciprocated. Yeah. Because like the worth that I put into the feelings was my time. Mm-hmm. So therefore, how could you not like this? Or, you like somebody else who's a bigger piece of shit than me. Like, and that's where a lot of the bitterness and resentment came from, and it took a long time to get over that, but I'm not in that mind space anymore. Mm-hmm. There is still a part of me that does have the longing, to be in a relationship, but definitely I would be able to find happiness now than I would have even 5 or 6 years ago. We did a previous podcast where I mentioned I was in a relationship, possibly going to be in a relationship with somebody, and then we fooled around, and now she called me on Christmas to break it off. Yeah. Like, there's no fucking way I would have been happy. And it's not because of the person. It's just even when, because I saw a relationship as kind of a trophy, like a the status, like golden plaque on the wall, like the decoration instead of, the tool. No, I think that's a really good way to put it, because I think a lot of people think that. Like, that's what my brain at, whatever age thought, that like the kind of like trophy to prove that like I'm an attractive person and that I'm likable was having a boyfriend, which is ridiculous, because if you invest all of your like self-worth and feeling good into the opinions of others, or the fact that people, want to be around you or want to date you, I mean, sure, maybe you can take like a shred of that, but if it's your whole being and your whole worth is based off of men want to date me or have sex with me, that's so sad. Like, what is there beyond that? Like, you as a person are really cool and like as an individual. But it is hard being single when you have those moments of longing and like, you want, like I said earlier, that feeling of coming home to someone, sleeping next to somebody in the same bed. Like, that's, we are social creatures and we really crave connection and intimacy. And like that's in a relationship. That being said, you can be in a relationship and it could be absolutely horrible. Like, to be in a relationship just to be in a relationship is usually the worst thing you can do for a relationship. Or like, I don't know too, because like with relationships, you want a person that adds to your existence and you add to their existence. At least that's like what I aim for. Like in like, if I'm going to spend time with a person like romantically, we have to add to each other. We can't, like, one person can't be giving it all, the other person taking it all. Like, we have to have personal traits that like build each other up and allow us to make things together rather than just, again, that like uneven balance of like one person giving. You guys also have to be on like the same page for like what you want, and that can be tricky too. especially when like there's like careers and like family goals and like what you would want out of like a relationship. So some people might not want a family, might not want kids. Like those people sometimes end up in a relationship with someone who doesn't want kids like at all, like period. But they still stick together for a little bit, and then when they break up, it's still devastating.
Yeah.
But it does make a lot of sense because there's something about the relationship because it gives that part of you hope. Mm-hmm. I would assume. I was in a short-term relationship, for only a few months, and that was the longest one ever. But, well, technically, no. The longest I've ever been in a relationship was 5 years. So, but that started in first grade, and we had to break it off in fifth grade. So,
what broke you guys up? A foundation like that, 5 years.
She was dating a guy in France.
Oh my God. Were you devastated?
Yeah.
I would be.
Because, here's how we all met. I mean, we were on the playground, mm-hmm. and then she just kissed my cheek one day, and then I was like, holy shit, this is amazing.
That's it. That's like all it is. It's like we touched lips and then boom.
And then like my mom and her mom were friends, so they would always like drop us off at each other's houses, and I would get her gifts for her birthday. And I remember she got me like the first day I really got the wake up call to being in a serious relationship was we were just we were just playing and hanging out, and we were on the playground, and then she at recess, and then she handed me a bouquet of lollipops, and then I said, what are these for? And then she said, today's sweetest day. And I said, oh, and then I just took the lollipops, and then I didn't say thank you or anything, and then that is probably why I'm alone to this day. So she broke it off with me because she was dating a guy in France, and it was a long time ago. That was about 21 years ago. So we were like 10 years old. So we had, our whole lives ahead of us.
You'd like to think so, but you just said you think that's the reason you're single. I'm just kidding. My parents actually, they first admitted feelings for each other on Sweetest Day. And so it was really like significant to them. They both, isn't Sweetest Day like in early October or something like that?
I don't know.
I think it's in October at some time. My parents are both born in September, literally 2 weeks apart, 2 years, 2 weeks. And so they both worked at McDonald's together growing up. And back in the day, if it was your birthday, McDonald's had birthday cakes they would give you. And so like my dad one night, like they were closing and like the manager like gave my dad his cake, and my mom's like, oh, like, am I gonna get my cake? Or maybe it was like reversed because my mom's 2 weeks after him. Either way, they ended up splitting the cake in one of their cars and making out. And then a few weeks later, it was Sweetest Day. And so my mom went to his house, and she was friends with his sister, went to his house, and he wasn't there, but she bought him like a little bear or something in a card and left it for him on his bed. And when she got home, he had left her a Sweetest Day present in her room.
Oh,
isn't that cute?
Right.
But yeah, so, but I'm trying to think how old they were. I think my mom was probably about 17. My dad was 19, something like that. That's really cute though. I'm such a sucker for like romantic fucking shit like that. That being said though, I don't think we've talked about it on here, just like in our personal life. I am horrible at accepting gifts from like significant others. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast where I think I did. A guy I was dating gave me flowers and I flipped shit because I don't know how to handle things. Like he gave me flowers and I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, is this not okay? And I'm like, no, it's fine. They're really pretty, thank you. But I'm like a fucking weirdo, man. Like I have to be prepared. Like I don't know. And it's also like, as much as I love that, like, well, I don't like gift giving necessarily in a relationship. Like, have you ever like done the profile and like what's your love language or looked into that?
Yeah, I'm definitely I think I'm words is number one, like that, like affection, whatever, like physical, like affection.
Physical affection, yeah, and then words.
Physical affection, and then words, and then I forget. It's been a long time since I took that test, but definitely those were the top two.
Mine are quality time and physical affection. Those are like, physical affection is only like a couple below the quality time spent together. So, and like when you're single, you just have to buy yourself the flowers, which I did that for like, I talked, I think, about in self-care, how I was toying around with this idea of like throughout my work week, I do something kind to myself, like bubble bath, do my nails, buy myself flowers. I did that once or twice and it felt really good, but flowers are also fucking expensive. So see, you can make singlehood a positive thing.
I just never recovered from my, grade school relationship. So think of it this way.
Who did?
Think of it this way. Okay, we made a relationship work for 5 years before puberty. And we wanted to see each other so bad, we got our fucking moms to drive us. Oh. And we talked on the telephone, on the wall phone.
The landline.
The landline. I would call like, hi, is Missy there? Yeah. Hang on a second. Missy! And then she got the phone. Hello? And then I'd be like, hey. Well, I was 6. I was like, hi.
Hi, how's it going?
But
did you watch Pokemon last night?
5 years.
You guys were seriously boyfriend-girlfriend, like, in your little elementary school minds. Boyfriend-girlfriend for 5 years?
Elementary school minds? What are you talking about? That was a serious relationship.
Okay, like, how serious are we talking?
Well, we held hands.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, that's more intimate than any of the other shit going on these days.
I really feel that.
When was the last time you went out on a first date or had a one-night stand and didn't hold hands?
Like,
see?
wait.
It's too fucking intimate.
Wait. No. When was the last time that we did hold hands on a first date?
Or you did shit more than that and not hold hands?
If I'm gonna be... Okay, so, like, here's the thing, though. Because I know how to read palms, there's inevitably a time... Nope, doesn't count. Okay.
Nope.
Okay, hand-holding specifically, though.
Yeah.
One date, I went on a date in December. And the guy and I ended up holding hands on the first date. We were like getting coffee and we were like pouring out our souls to each other. And I was like, can I like hold your hands? And he's like, yes. And we like held hands. So, and then things happened. So,
see, it's a pretty intense shit, but imagine that.
I felt fucking electricity shooting between him and I. It was like, it was fucking intense. I've never felt anything like that before.
Yeah. Imagine that as a child and trying to figure it out. Oh. And you're with somebody that's in the same grade and they live down the street and it seems like they are a nation away and the only ship to take you there is your parents' car. That's pretty fucking deep, dude.
It's deep.
But all kidding aside, last one was just a few months off of OkCupid, and I just wasn't feeling it, and then I decided to end it. But ever since then, I've just been single, and even before that, I've just lived a super single life. So I'm going to be 31 in a couple of weeks. Actually, no,
this Saturday, actually.
Yeah, like a couple days. So I would say 30 years and 8 months I've been single. So
well, I'm 25. I've been single for 20 years out of those 5 years. I had that 5-year relationship and then been single. So I wonder, actually, like, let's talk about like people who are like serial relationshipers. That, like, there's something going on there, right? Like, if you're in and out of relationships, like bang bang, you don't even have like 6 months to yourself, like, whoa, dude, what's going on? That, to me, that seems like a red flag.
Definitely. There was a person in my life who was just relationship to relationship, and it was a fucking disaster every single time. And I don't know what's going on now, but I'm pretty sure it's a disaster as well. But who knows? There are a few other people I do know, like in my life, just either at work or just in the know, who go from relationship to relationship. What I never understood is how easy it was for them to just jump, like as if they were bar hopping.
Yeah. To go from like person to person, like, especially if it's something like you and a person like went on one date, like, yeah, obviously that's easy to get like rid of and over. But if it's like a person you dated for you know, I dated a guy for like 3 months consistently, and I needed at least like a couple weeks to just kind of get my head leveled out after that. So like when people just like jump, it's like, first off, how do you do that emotionally? B, are you even dealing with that? C, is it good? Like, is this healthy?
I don't think so. There's definitely something about that to where I think you were saying earlier, like where that's all of their being is being with somebody.
Yeah, it's like all the trophies they have.
Yeah, it's like a different form of like the introversion, extroversion to where, you know, because extroverts, they wilt when they don't, you know, spend their time around other people.
Yeah. So
I think part of it's cultural. At least it's culturally advertised. You know, with like, especially like with stupid like Valentine's Day and all that stuff. And that all that used to really bother me. Like, oh, I'm alone on Valentine's Day again. And then there was one Valentine's Day I wasn't alone, and it was like, I got you gifts, and then like I had flowers delivered to her house, and then she got me a green basket. You know, but I still used the shit out of that basket every day, and I put my buttons on there. I have a little button collection. So, you know, it's still really cool. But I don't get bothered with that stuff anymore. I'm definitely like, that doesn't take away from the loneliness. It just takes away, like, because the definition of a relationship isn't what Valentine's Day is or Christmas and all that other shit. It's what, you know, you're sharing like with another person. And what I always got my whole life, as a guy who doesn't know shit about being in relationships, I'm often asked the most advice about how to make relationships work.
I feel like I've done this, or at least I've spat to you about like my like troubles in a relationship and gotten your feedback. I wonder if this is the case for a lot of single people.
I don't know if it's because I'm single, or maybe it's just because, I mean, at least like with us, it's just probably because of our friendship. You know, I mean, I would assume that when you did disclose that stuff to me at the time, you trusted me enough to do so. And there was nothing else beyond that. And, you know, you needed a friend in that moment. And I would hope I was of some help.
Well, for sure.
Because I know how sometimes I could just be really goofy in moments where I need to be serious. But that's just how I connect with people. The thing that bothers me about the whole people coming to me for advice thing is, it's not that they're coming to me for advice. It's when I give advice that says, hey, this is kind of fucked up. And because they are in a relationship, what they're doing is right. So for instance, if somebody is being clearly abused, and then I'm like, yeah, that's pretty fucked up. And then they say, well, yeah, you don't know what it's like to be in a relationship. This is how all relationships are. I'm like, really? Like, you get to the point where you just like this? Yeah. And you can just be that like mean, nasty, and volatile? It's like, yeah, you're in a relationship, but whoever you're doing that to is fucking miserable.
Well, that, and I remember distinctly like feeling a certain like, there was a moment or two in my previous relationship where I had these really low moments of like, do I break up now with him, or do I maintain us being together because at least then I'm in a relationship and I'm not alone? Like, I remember feeling that. And that's probably a plight that maybe it's pretty likely these serial monogamous relationshipers are feeling like they need that because at least they're not alone. Like, what are they distracting from themselves? Like, relationships should add to you as a person, and you should add to each other. It shouldn't be like, I don't know, like essential for your being. You should be okay with being alone.
It's kind of like the music analogy that we were talking about a few weeks or a few podcasts ago. I can't remember which episode, because guess what I have?
CRS can't remember shit.
CRS can't remember shit. Put it on a t-shirt. Actually, I think they already have it at Walmart. But in any case, so if you look at a relationship, like imagine like if your life was like a song, you know, like just picture like a song that really moved you, that really affected you.
Rain and Blood by Slayer.
Okay, Rain and Blood by Slayer.
I'm just kidding.
Come on, Gabi. No. Come on.
Rain and Blood. Let me think of a song. Okay, do you have one?
I have quite a few. I would say, like, for me right now, it's Time by Pink Floyd.
Oh my god. I think. Well, I just saw them on Tuesday, so I would say Yeah 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 is probably the song like Date with the Night or Pin or Why Control or Poor Song or Modern Romance.
Okay, so let's just take Modern Romance. There's an I don't know the song, but how many pieces of the song can you dissect? So, for instance, you have the vocals, then you have the bass, you have the guitar. Like, what are the instruments being played?
Vocals, drums, guitar. There might be some synthesizer and keyboard in it. That's one of the reasons I love them, because like I always gravitate towards like minimalist, like beats, voice, guitar, done. Like that's what I love. But yeah, so like maybe 4 elements to the song.
Okay, so with those 4 elements, the song would be completely different if you removed one of those elements had you heard it for the first time. Because now if you removed, let's just say, the drums, you could still appreciate the song because your first impression was of all of those elements working harmoniously together.
Yeah.
Now imagine that as like different parts of your life. So the vocals, it's your voice. Like you have the drums, that's like the backbone, like that, like you're pretty much like your support. And then your bass is just echoing whatever the melody's playing on the on the guitar. So for instance, that could be like how you take care of yourself based on what you're doing into the world. So those two, go neck and neck, it goes hand in hand. But with a relationship, it could be any of those. I wouldn't say, so if a relationship is your voice, your backbone, your support, and like what you're doing with the world, that can never really be a harmonious song. So I think that's why people are going from person to person all the time, is because they can't stand, that silence, just in between themselves. So, the way I see it, with the lack of relationship, like knowledge and expertise that I do have, but at least what I would want is to have a relationship that is, I would just say, secondary to my life. Not to say that it's lower or lesser, but my number one priority is my dreams and myself. So I don't want someone to come into my life and just take my fucking dreams away from me just because they want to go watch a movie or something. Not to say that I wouldn't dedicate that time, because there is a part of it. I mean, when you are single and you do want to be in a relationship and you do have like qualities of like, that you can be compassionate and give affection and time and dedication and all that stuff, it's kind of like having, a giant savings account and then there's just nowhere to spend the money, or you just have a collection of like magazines or some shit that, nobody wants or something like that. I always just wanted the relationship not to complete me, but just to fulfill me in a way that nothing else in my life can, because there's no relationship that's ever going to live up to comedy, or there's no relationship that's ever going to live up to art or just like conversation. I want to meet a person where I could just learn so much from them, and not to where they're making any other aspects of my life bad.
Yeah.
I just wanted to just be maybe the drum in that song, maybe just like kind of like that backbone to the rest of his shit, just like it just boom, 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 because that's what a heartbeat is, and that shit's love, man. But I can't create anybody else's song for them. I don't want to be that, and that's kind of why I ended my previous relationship, because even 6 weeks into knowing this person, they told me they can't imagine their life without me. And I'm like, ugh, fuck, you don't even know my last name.
Yeah. And that's, okay, so there's been moments of weakness in my singledom where I've like reached out to like those like guy knowing gurus. There's literally like, do you know, on the internet, there's like literally this idea that like men are these complex creatures that we don't understand. And so there's forums and spaces and people who make money off of like matchmaking or like telling girls how guys tick, basically. It's fucking nonsense. But I've had moments of weakness where I've looked up, things like how to get men to text you back, or like just bullshit stuff like that. And one thing that stands out to me, and even I feel this way, was that like the moment that someone comes on so strong that they like say like, I want a relationship, they were using the stereotype that like guys don't want relationship, and that the moment they sniff out that you are hunting for that or trying to pin them down for that, they run. And that I was kind of thinking about that, and I'm like, you know what? I think that's a good mentality to like have, because if someone is trying to force the relationship, they're out in the world to get a relationship, to get a boyfriend. That's the worst thing you could fucking do, because rather than looking for like authentic connection and just like feeling good with that person and seeing where it goes. Instead, you're like, ugh, I don't know, you're just like taking a square peg, shaving off the sides to force it into the round hole. Like, it just doesn't work. And again, when you're talking about these serial daters, do you think that they're ultimately, you said they can't handle that like loneliness or being alone. Do you think the relationship is like the distraction? It's almost like social media. Like, when they're uncomfortable, they look to their phone. When they're uncomfortable, they like need a person to validate them.
It could be a sign of a greater problem. So, I don't want to say addiction, because addictions have a bottom and they get to the point to where you can no longer function. Mm-hmm. And if you're just, a person that's in serial relationships, you're completely functional, mm-hmm. but there's a part of you that might not be able to function on your own. So I really don't know about that. I don't know, man.
Yeah. I think for some people it is true, though, that they have to use it as a tool to validate. Like, they have the trophy collection. And then that's like their badge. Why do you think that singlehood, I feel like in our culture too, like there's always like the miserable, like snarky, like all lonely person, like in sitcoms, or like there's that archetype of like the single best friend who's like too good for dating, but also like snarky and kind of like miserable because they're alone. So like, why do you think our society or our culture is so obsessed with like dismissing singlehood?
Fuck, that's me. It's because perhaps it's okay. The human race revolves around, I don't want to say relationships, but relations. So that's just something that, like, no matter like you can't escape it.
Yeah.
And not to say that it's for everybody, but it's most people's just kind of destiny to experience love.
Yeah. And
it's been very commodified, or at least like in, like the parlance. It's trivial in a sense, because most parties I go to, when they say, are you have a girlfriend? No, I'm single. They go, aw. But in the very few situations and months where I have been to parties and I'm like, yes, I do have a girlfriend. They're like, oh yeah, cool. And that's it. They don't ask more about it. They don't say, what's she like? What's her name? They don't ask any questions. If anything, maybe I show a picture, but it's trivia. And I'm like, wait a minute. I thought this is supposed to fucking be the biggest part of myself.
Yeah.
So all those guru websites and all the pickup artist bullshit and everything surrounding that you mentioned earlier, that stuff legitimately works for squares. For just regular ass people. Mm-hmm. So, not to say that, relationships should be for just people who, offer something greater to humanity, but there's just it's just so hard to relate to people sometimes, especially when you kind of have to find someone who totally understands you. And there's just no way to get around that. And that works for predictable people.
Yeah.
So if you could just predict like a completely like boring dud of a person, that shit's perfect, because they're going to fucking text you back because they don't have any depth. Mm-hmm. That's why, like, when you go to the beach, you could still see the fucking sand, like your first footstep in. Can you skip rocks in deep water?
I don't know how to skip rocks. You're asking the wrong person. Okay.
I think you could probably skip rocks off of deep water, but on the last jump, that fucking rock goes all the way down.
No, it sinks. There's no chance of getting it back.
No.
Which I feel like there's a lot of, like, I think you're getting at to, like, the superficiality of people. And, like, that there's not people in general, but, like, there is an element of people not wanting to go deep, not wanting to explore, like, these issues or quandaries. Like, you and I spitting in front of a microphone about all these topics, like, that is many people's not their bag. That wouldn't be their ideal. And one thing that I've found in, like, my singlehood is that I just really love having great, like, connection and conversation with people. Like, last night I went to a bar by myself, which probably sounds sad, but honestly, it was my favorite bar in the city, and it was a really good time. And I ended up talking to this woman sitting next to me. Well, she was a few seats down, and we ended up like meandering over and like sitting next to each other. Shout out to you, Ingrid. We actually talked about the podcast. She's fucking awesome. But it was really cool because like we talked about the fact that like we didn't have our phones out. We weren't actively using them. She said something about, I think, social distortion, and then I was like, oh, I've seen them before, blah blah blah. We started like talking, and like just like boom, instant connection. Like I fucking love that shit. I was talking to the bartender, really nice guy. It was just good fucking shit. And so that, like, for me as like a person who I like connecting with people, and I think that it's easy for those of us who really like finding people, finding that depth, having these conversations. It's really easy to think that a relationship would be that goodness, like my conversation with Ingrid, all the time. But it's not necessarily that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's almost like the fantasy of it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why, see, with me, I could say that I'm pretty picky with who I would like to date, because I just really have a thing for conversationalists. Like anyone who could fucking like carry a conversation, like just be like active and engaged, and you know, like the questions that I ask, you know, not just be it's like, okay, like what's a movie that you just love? Well, I don't know, I kind of like them all. It's like,
or like my favorite is, what music do you listen to? What's your favorite band? Well, I don't really listen to music. What?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like, what's your favorite food?
I like Italian. Yeah. I like pizza. Oh, okay, that's generic.
You know, just like I just like, you know, exploring that humanity with people, and it's really, and especially like when you find one of those people in the wild. You know, like especially like at work, and I just have a connection with somebody, and then like I never see them again. Like I'm just like, God damn it, this is so cruel. Like maybe once a year I meet that person, and then they just go the fuck away. You know, but
fucking boring people, man.
Yeah, I mean, not to say that boring people are bad people. It's just I just want to be fulfilled like with that constant discovery.
Yeah, and it's also hard too, though. You'd said that you want the relationship to bring this sort of fulfillment that you haven't had before, and that's so difficult because then you're putting the relationship, like, then you're kind of making it in your mind like it has to be this deep, amazing level of fulfillment, and that's so hard for us humans to rise to. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's also hard because, like, you know, to be human is to err, and like when that person like lets you down, because it's gonna happen, like one way or another, like we let each other down, we disappoint each other, like in one way or another, eventually through our relationships. Then you always have to remember that, like, that person's actions don't reflect the fulfillment, or, like, you know what I mean? Like, when we say that, like, relationships are fulfilling things, it's true. You get something out of a relationship that you can't get from yourself, obviously, because you need that second party. But it's also so difficult because, again, it's like, I don't want to say all over the place. How do I say? It's just uncertain, always. Nothing is certain other than death and taxes.
At least with being in a relationship, just from my experience, my very small stint within it, it's a lot easier to know that you exist when you are in a relationship, and that's what kind of sucks about them.
I think that's really sucky. It speaks to our nature as like social creatures, but the fact that we need another figure to validate us and our existence and what we're doing.
Yeah, it's not just that. It's just like it's like the intimacy. It's the kissing, and it's the hand holding, and it's like all the, you know, remembering the anniversaries, and it's just like, you know, having someone there, and it's like just, it's all that shit. And I just couldn't go out in public and just, you know, like, hey man, what are you doing? Nothing, dude. You just want to be my fucking SO, man? Yeah, sure, okay. Like, you know, like, why am I saying that to a dude? This is weird. But in any case, you have to like build towards that. You know, I just never thought, I remember like when I was younger, I thought like, yeah, I'd be fucking married to someone by like, you know, this time of my life. Like, I'm not even in a relationship. Mm-hmm. So not even anywhere near that. But I will say, I don't think I would have sustained. Who knows? I really don't know. Maybe with that one girl that broke it off with me on Christmas, maybe I would have been married to her and had 2 kids, but maybe I would have been miserable.
Yeah.
And without this newfound fascination with knowledge and learning and just like growth. Because like I can't imagine that guy at that time. How old was I? I was 24 at the time. I can't imagine that 24-year-old being 30 now. That would have been fucking really miserable.
Well, and even think about like I had said earlier, like if I was in a relationship, like when I start touring or whatever, like you have to factor into there's like a person back home that you don't get to see every day. Or, you know, what if they don't want you to do those things? Or what if they have ideas about like what you should be in the relationship? Like I hate to sound like go into that like stereotypical nature, but like what if you're in a relationship with a person and you come to find out that they want something from you way more traditional? Like they want you to have kids and stay at home and cook and clean and do the dishes and all that shit, and they want to be the breadwinner, and you're over here like, that ain't me, babe. Like that's not gonna work. So, and plus too, like relationships are complex because you ultimately have to deal with their expectations too, which is like healthy to an extent. Like we're in this together to like, you know, add to each other's lives, you know, to get happiness from this relationship, although it shouldn't be the sole source of happiness. And maybe that's the main mistake people make, is this idea that like relationships are the sole place where they get like joy instead of like their work and other aspects of themselves. And it's hard too, because like I'm coming from a place of like, since the time I was like 16 or 17 years old, like when my parents got divorced, I was like, I need to always be able to take care of myself financially, emotionally, all that stuff. Yet I cling to, I mean, I think it's human to like cling to the idea of like wanting a relationship. But anyway, so I'm always in this headspace of like, they should be adding to me, not taking away, and I should be able to do what I want to do, and then them like reciprocate, or like we can like still like work it out together. So on the one hand, you don't have those expectations that you have to live up to in a relationship of like what another person's like standard or ideas of like what you have to be. But I don't know, it's still kind of I don't know where to go from there. Yeah,
it's not necessarily that a relationship is the ultimate happiness, but the progress itself is the happiness.
Yeah.
Because there's not like one aha moment like you have with a relationship where you will just fucking know that everything is it, because as soon as that moment's, you know, it literally is like a fleeting moment. Mm-hmm. And then like the future is after that, and that shit's so unknown.
Yeah.
But it's at least progressing towards something. And that's like where the happiness is more found. At least I would assume so. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we really are so complex and not like what any of these ideas floating around are making us out to be. Mm-hmm. It's so fucking crazy, dude. But I mean, if somebody like, I saw this movie, this movie, I think most people know it. It's called How to Be Single.
I don't know that movie.
It came out 2 years ago on Valentine's Day. And it's funny because I actually saw that on the second date with my ex. I will say the movie, it's just whatever, but the last 20 minutes are fucking great.
Yeah?
I've never seen a movie, because usually it's like the movie's great and then the last 20 minutes suck. Uh-huh. But this movie, it sucked until the last 20 minutes, and I was like, holy shit, this is fucking fantastic. But the whole point of that movie was like she was hopping from relationship to relationship, the main protagonist, and then she had like other friends. Like she had one friend that was just in a relationship the whole time, and then another one, I can't remember, but pretty much like the perception of that she came into at the end of the movie is that like she doesn't need anybody to define herself, and I think that's a very moot point, because I think a lot of people are looking to define themselves through somebody else. That's like it's pretty much like a speed limit sign. That's a speedometer at that point, because I think if you are with somebody else, what they're just telling you how fast you're going, and there's all of these other rules attached to it. So
it's sad that on the one hand, again, we're social creatures. We have to use like community to help like identify ourselves and who we are. But at the same time too, like if we put so much stock into another person's thoughts or feelings or expectations to make sense of ourselves, like that can't be right. That can't be healthy either. So weird.
It is. You know, there have been times where I felt like, you know, here's the reason why I'm single. It's because of me. And it's not because of like, you know, like a character flaw or like I'm like this big piece of shit or anything like that. It's just because I'm not trying. So maybe like if I had like kept myself out there like on the dating scene on like, you know, online dating a few years ago, who knows? Like it really doesn't matter. But I used to be resentful of the fact that like no one would just like come up to me and just like want me. You know what I'm saying? Like I always had to put in all the work to get nothing. And that's like what really made me bitter for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, I think in all fairness, like relationships, again, they should be like the guy shouldn't have to do it all. It shouldn't just be, you know, one party, regardless of sex or gender, like doing all the work and doing all the chasing and doing all the pleasing. That's not how it should work. I mean, I'm of the opinion that like if you go on a first date, the person who asked you on the date pays. And then, you know, maybe the first, like, you know, then you guys can, like, maybe trade off or something like that. Like, even that, which is very monetary and, like, not important to me, I think has, like, value in the sense of, like, we're both contributing equally to, like, this shared time together, for example. I used to be really creeped out. Have you ever heard, like, when it's being explained why a guy should pay, someone says he's paying for your company?
I think I've heard that, but it's been a long time.
I not only do I roll my eyes, but everything inside of me just tenses up, and it's like, oh, I didn't realize like I'm a prostitute, and that they're buying my time and my company, and that they should be paying for me. Like that just skeeves me out like nobody's business.
Well, he's putting the pussy down on layaway.
Yeah, that's exactly like the idea there. Versus like, oh, we went out for beer. You bought the first 2 rounds. I'll buy the next 2 rounds. Like, I don't know. Like, we went out to dinner. We split the bill. Like, so much better. And I know there's probably a lot of people like, no, you should let him pay. I know my mom several times. She's been like, you need to let them pay because they get validation from their masculinity by paying for you. And I was like, fuck that shit. I'm a strong, independent woman.
So, but you should at least give him some pussy because he's the one paying. He's paying for the evening, and you know he's the one being interesting. It's such a fucked up narrative that's been pushed and spread. It's fucking nonsense, dude. Yeah, fucking nonsense. So reminds me of this question, like, all right, how would you? Let's just say that you were in an accident. And let's just say that your vagina had to be sewed up forever. How would you please your men?
Oh, is this like a trick question? Is this a joke? It's just like an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah, how would you please your man if your vagina had to be sewed up?
Well, there's other ways.
Like what?
I don't want to talk about them on air.
Like what?
I'm a teacher, man. I don't want to talk about it. Well, there's physical things you can do. There's also emotional things you can do and intimate things you can do that don't involve each other's bodies. So
my overall point there was you shouldn't be qualifying yourself as a whole. So why couldn't you just say play video games? Watch TV.
No, exactly. Go to the game. No, yeah. Well, I qualify myself as more than a whole, promise, but...
I hope you weren't thinking, well, I'll use my feet. You know.
There's other parts of my body that I can use. But no, like intimate, like mental, emotional things, like... But the sad thing is, like, does it come from the idea that men are all horn dogs and need sex 24/7? Or does it come from the idea that women are holes? Or what is it? Is it both?
Well, women are holes, and they don't have any brains. I mean... That
was the idea,
you guys shouldn't really be allowed to vote.
Yeah.
I mean, like, fuck, thank God you're not president.
Yeah, no, oh my God.
But, I mean, shit.
I mean, every time her period would come around... we would have another world war.
Yeah, can you imagine, like, all of our tax dollars going to, like, keep her off the rag?
Come on. My God.
You know, but,
I gotta love misogyny.
So, well, at least the dating culture and culture is a word that I'm really starting to detest over time because everything's a fucking culture now.
Yeah.
You know, like on a little side rant, like I heard this one, outrage culture, like on the internet. So all you have to do is just type on a keyboard and complain and you're part of a culture now. That's all it fucking takes.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the idea that we were concerned with outrage culture, like when we had our words episode, because like we don't want people, just because you said, well, maybe we shouldn't just like put on this label of, we're not going to say this word, then all of a sudden we've cured racism. There are people out there who literally would just like foam at the mouth at hearing that and rant about it on the internet. No, I do think that culture word might be overused and overplayed, and maybe we could substitute it with like outrage phenomenon or outrage, I don't know, patterns on the internet. But yeah, no, outrage culture is totally a thing though.
It is. I guess my point was with dating culture. So it's just a culture of dating, but it's not necessarily it's not the same dating as they do in other countries, and it's definitely not even the same dating that we do across like the like even in this country, like the way the Amish date is totally different than like how me and you would date.
True.
Like these fucking people live, a few thousand miles away, and hey, the Amish will never listen to this podcast. Like, there's no fucking way.
I was about to say that's their choice, but is it really their choice? Because I think they believe they're chosen. Is that correct?
Well, they're not on their phones all day.
No, if there's an Amish person on Rumspringa, they could listen to us because they're like allowed to like go do their like live in the modern world for how long? 2 months? A year? And then they make the choice if they want to be Amish again.
I don't know, but they get a lot of shit. I would probably build 5 barns too if I didn't have a fucking laptop. But they never
Their
have
craftsmanship is amazing. Let's just be real.
Yeah, Amish butter. Holy fuck, that's the best shit ever.
I've actually never had Amish butter, and now I never will.
So I guess this culture that has been proceeding for the past, let's just say 50 years or so, is being really tied to like advertising and just like, part of like the social collective, like men should behave this way on a date, women should behave this way on the date.
Yeah, I think it's changed a little bit, but...
It has changed a little bit, but not so much to where you would say the norm has changed.
No, although I think it's unique and... I don't know what the word is, but like the fact that like dating apps have become like the primary source of people meeting. I don't actually know if it's the primary source. I don't have any data on it. But I would wager that a lot of people put themselves out on those things and like expect things will happen or whatever. Versus like when online dating first came out, people were like, ew, you're meeting people online. Why can't you just go to a bar? You know what I mean? So like things change and shift, and like here's another one, hookup culture. That's a thing that many people would argue comes out of apps like Tinder and Grindr. Is Grindr actually just for sex?
It's a very dark place where you meet most of your high school graduating class unintentionally.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay.
And you're like, what? Holy shit, he's gay? What the fuck?
But yeah, so in that regard, holy crap, he's gay and he's gay? But, so that's just for sex. And many people have said that Tinder is just for sex, although I've never used it, like, for hookups. So, although I know it's possible.
Well, it's vain as fuck.
Well, okay, yeah, it's a human meat catalog, and you swipe on what's pretty. Like, it's bad. I admit it. But that being said, I don't think I'm the experience for a man on Tinder is very different for the experience of a woman on Tinder. As a woman, I swipe left or no on about 95% of the dudes that I see on there. And then I only like, about 5%. And I look through all their pictures. I read their bio to make sure it's not something that like turns me off immediately. All that stuff, like versus a guy. And like, so I'll do that and I'll probably match with, I don't know, maybe 60% of the people I swipe right on. But for a guy, they have the experience of like, they swipe right more, but get less matches and less communication out of it and so on and so forth.
it makes it a lot more complicated, because when you read somebody's words and you have no context behind them, you're actually kind of it's kind of like when you read a book, like let's just say you read Fahrenheit 451. Your self-image of Guy Montag was a lot different than how he was in the movies. Mm-hmm. Like there's like a British adaptation that was like from the 60s or 70s, and then there's like the TV one with Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, which it completely breaks from the book entirely, so we don't have to talk about that one.
Right, and I don't mind if we don't. But so when you read about Guy Montag like doing all this shit, like you picture like a certain person in your head, you hear a certain voice in your head when he's narrating. So it's the same thing when you're online dating. So if I'm reading a bio of a girl saying, I like having deep conversations, I'm projecting what I think she is just by reading her words. So instead of having that face-to-face interaction. So it's really fucking tough to just gauge that. And I really think social media is a lot, well, not social media, but dating online is a lot easier to just meet people, but it's not easier to connect, if that makes any sense.
I think exactly. Like it's like Tinder or online dating is good for introductions. It's not necessarily you're not guaranteed like a deep, longing, great time or relationship just by going on Tinder. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't work that way. And it makes me wonder, how do we cultivate those like deep, meaningful relationships like now? Like where are we supposed to look? What are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to meet people? Because again, like there's even like a negative stereotype about meeting people in bars or like going out. So where are you supposed to meet people? I know one of my good friends, they're a couple, they met at like a concert. Like the girl thought he was really cute and she like went up and was like, oh, can I bum a cigarette? And then they like hung out like I think the entire show, and then she like drove him home or something like that. Like something, they met out in the wild, as Brent likes to say. So, how are we supposed to do that now? But again, like being single is like it's like everything in life. It is what you make of it. It's either this wonderful, beautiful experience where you can be yourself and learn who you are and come into your own, or it's a miserable, lonely experience where you just wish you were in a relationship the whole time. It is what you make of it.
Yeah, at least being in a relationship, it makes you distracted from all of the other shit going on, or it completely amplifies it. It's one or the other. So it's either a different song that you're listening to, or it's just so fucking loud it's making you go deaf. Yeah,
and like honestly, I've realized that being in a relationship right now in this phase of life is probably going to be doomed, because I'm still in that space of like becoming like the best person I can be. Like I think we talked about that like earlier. Like we're in these spaces of like, hey, I'm like focusing on me and like making myself like well and all that good stuff, so that when like things come along, I'm in the right space for it or whatever. And I think that's really important for everybody, including the serial daters. They should stop and think about how they're feeling and thinking, and could they be better served being alone and trying to tend to themselves and being in a relationship with themselves.
At least with the serial daters, they probably haven't figured out like the most important aspect of themselves yet. Yeah. And that's that nobody else can fucking, make you, or, like nobody can really take away like the best parts of yourself.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the sad thing is there's probably people who think they are their best selves when they're in a relationship. And I think that maybe when you're in a relationship, at least for the first year to 6 months, the best parts of you come out. But if you can't be like that best self all the time, what are you doing?
Damn, that's a good thing, because would you say being like the best version of yourself is like if there's a certain performance element in that? So like when you say be the best version of yourself, like in a relationship, does that mean like being like always on and having like the best performance? Like,
I think I'm shying away from the word performance in the sense of like I am on a stage, this is an act. But it definitely, it's kind of like, I'm going to use it like Judith Butler uses it, like that gender is a performance. Like, yeah, being your best self is a series of actions and behaviors and patterns where you are actively being your best self, versus somebody like, versus like this is an act that I'm putting on to fool you into thinking I'm this like perfect partner. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's really rare that you see couples meet and flourish in a relationship when they are at the absolute like worst part of their lives.
Yeah, that it doesn't happen. It's all like we were talking earlier about like the idea of like law of attraction with what you put out is what comes back to you. So if you are an anxious, loathsome, self-hating person, those are the people you're going to attract. And I think that there's some truth to it because like I've always felt like when I was in a space of like loving myself, feeling myself, focusing on fun and like connection or like that, not just like the being in a relationship, that's when I've met like the best people, like regardless of like where we ended up or whatever.
I guess would make a relationship. I've never heard of or seen a relationship end on the good shit. It's always the fucking bad shit. It's always,
of course, yeah.
But like it's always anger, it's always resentment, it's always jealousy, it's always
regret,
bitterness. Like all of that shit destroys a relationship. So if you bring any of that into a relationship, it's going to take you out. It might not be immediately, but it's kind of like you're feeding this really tiny snake, like just crumbs a day. So like when you get it, it's like a little tiny python. Like you ever, like you have like some puppies like bite your finger. Like they're just little tiny teeth. They don't really puncture. Like and they're trying with all their fucking might to like hurt you. But if that grew up to be like this big ass 200-pound bull mastiff, it can just chomp your arm off in one bite.
If it wanted, yeah.
So if you bring any of those negative feelings into the relationship, even if that's baggage from your previous one, it will end very fucking badly.
Yeah, it will. I think that it's hard because we have competing messages about like relationships and singlehood. Singlehood, the idea is it's supposed to be this like kind of lonesome time. You're anxious. You want to be in a relationship. You're putting yourself out there. You're trying to, but then it could also be in a relationship with yourself and trying to make the best out of like everything and being you and creating art or doing what you need to do and loving it. And then relationships, we get these competing messages. Relationships are supposed to be easy. Relationships are supposed to be work. Relationships are supposed to be fulfilling and meaningful, but not be your sole source of purpose and meaning and well-being, blah, blah, blah. We have so many competing messages. You can't keep them straight because they contradict each other. And then you just as a person have to decide, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to think? What am I going to believe?
It's definitely the case because it's really, really extremely rare that you meet your soulmate in your same zip code.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, or yeah.
I mean, do soulmates even exist though? Or when you say soulmates, do you mean like, when I think of soulmate, I think of like a person who you like connect with on a soul level. And I don't think that's exclusive to romantic partners.
I understand what you're saying. I think what I mean is the person who is the most compatible with you within a relationship.
And your perspective is that they don't live near you.
I just say it's extremely rare, but
is that why Tinder works?
Tinder, Tinder, you're just getting laid. I mean, that's just what that, because...
Well, no, because like with Tinder, you can meet people within a 50-mile radius of yourself. You can like set the distance. So like between you and them. So like, you see what I'm saying?
Okay, so that's like a little cheat in the system. But, okay, but in this case, have you met a guy that lived in your town?
That lived in my town?
Yes.
No, but the person that I was in, like the people I've dated have all been like nearby.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But I guess my point is, it's not that there's one specific person for you out there, and perhaps there is, and it's extremely rare that you will not find them, but there's a lot of different types of that person around. Mm-hmm. So, we are all like uniquely original in our own sense. Like we're a mixture of like all of our memories and experiences and beliefs and behaviors. But in terms of who you're compatible with in a relationship, there's like a certain niche out there for you. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, you always hear about that one girl or guy like, oh, they can be with anybody. It's like, no.
Yeah.
They can attract anybody or most people like in a general sense, but they cannot be in a relationship with just fucking anybody.
That's a really good like perspective shift from the people that you attract versus the people you're compatible with. Like there's many people who attract individuals that we're not going to be compatible with each other. And I think like maybe that's the real like thing about being dating and about being single, is figuring out what you are compatible with for yourself and with others.
I agree. There's definitely like, what do you attract the most?
Well, I was in that space of like, I was attracting like, the guys I've dated like have been generally good people, but they, you know, it wasn't meant to last. It served a purpose, but that was it. It wasn't this like really long-term thing. There was a stint on Tinder where I kept matching with like vegan straight edge guys, which I thought was really funny, who were like perpetually all in like hardcore bands, which was kind of cool. But now, you know what is interesting though? I have recently been attracting a lot of musicians, or like people who are doing the same thing that I'm doing or similar, which is really cool. So that's what I've been attracting. But again, I don't know, like, this, the other thing too is you can be attractive to somebody, but they don't tell you.
Right.
I mean, I've got black and white hair and a nose ring. I'm sure there's like some, you know, guy who's got like a Hot Topic girl fetish, and I might fulfill that for him. Although he's never, thank God, talked to me. But versus the people I'm compatible with, like, that's a way deeper thing. You know what I mean? Like, the people I'm compatible with are like great conversationalists, and they love art, and they, you know, they don't buy into the bullshit that I don't buy into, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's weird, like, would you be, so like they're compatible with you, would you, like, do you think that compatibility is supposed to be mutual? Or like, is it possible to be compatible with somebody and then they're just not compatible for you?
Oh, yeah. Like, there's aspects of them that you're like, yes, I want this in a partner. And they're like, whoa, but I'm looking at this in you. Or like, I've got my eyes over here on this person. And so that's not going to happen. But yeah, for a successful coupling, for a successful, like, two people coming together to make something and, like, you know, creating together, yeah, there has to be compatibility with each other. And it has to be like, no person is 100% perfect for anybody, right? We can all admit that. But like, you know, 80% of their personality you can jive with, and you make things together, including like a beautiful like relationship and like all that stuff. So maybe it's like all about figuring out what is your like compatibility, like what do you need, what do you want, and you can explore that when you're single. Like, that's the beauty of being single. You figure your shit out, and you don't have to have anyone else's shit to deal with.
Exactly. So it's weird that it's like a game.
Yeah, it kind of is.
At least like with like the social
media makes it a game. I mean, Tinder is a game.
Oh yeah,
like,
well,
it's
shit.
a total like, and you get the dopamine rush as soon as you get a match. Like, come on.
Yeah, like you have rules. Like, you swipe left, this happens. You swipe right, that happens. Like, it's a total fucking. It's like a regular like It's a strategy game, like on your phone.
You can make sure that they know they like that you like them with super. Oh, what's it called? Super match. You basically like put it like a blue star on their profile, and it will automatically come up on their stuff that they like you. Like that, and so basically when you swipe right, you know it's an automatic match because they've already let you know ahead of time, I'm into you.
Yeah. Oh man, it just reminds me of some of the profiles that I really, 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 really liked on OkCupid, and then nothing ever came of any. Like, I tried talking to them, and it just completely fell flat.
It was like you were saying with like the context is like sometimes you have the propensity to build up something or somebody in your head when, I don't know. It's also hard too because like, have you ever like been on a date or like in a relationship and you like thought there were signs of like good things happening and good things coming, and then it just fizzled out or like it just didn't work?
Oh God, there was one girl that lived 3 hours away, and I remember like just on a whim one night, I did my search settings, like, you know, because I understand that drinking and like drugs and smoking is very part of the culture, and it's very rare to find girls or women who just don't do any of that stuff. So of the ones that they're like, I pretty much get all Muslims, you know, like, and there's just 6, and then there's this one who was 3 hours away, and then I just, on a whim, just messaged her, and then we really fucking hit it off, like, so well. And then we'd send biographies back and forth to each other in messages, and then I said, how about we talk on the phone? And we talked on the phone, and we had, like, amazing fucking conversations. And then, you know, when I drove out to meet her, everything was cool, and then throughout the course of the day, it dawned on me she had no sense of humor. Oh. And I was like, motherfucker. And then, you know, that was a big letdown. But, you know, when you connect with somebody online, like, you know, it's not that that she was responsive with me. It's just that she put in the same time and effort I did into sending the messages. So I'd send a long message, she'd send a long message, and like we would like top each other. And she's like, okay, this is 1,500 words, and then like I was like, oh, 1,600, 1,700, like it was just back and forth, and it was great.
That's like intimidating at a certain point. Like when you're both vibing on it, that's good. But have you ever been where like people send you like pages upon pages, and then you don't respond with okay, but you're like, I can't respond to all of that, like, or I like. Not that I can't, as in, like, I don't want to, but, like, literally, like, I have nothing to add here. Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? So, yeah, dude. Being single. Dating. It's some shit.
Yeah. So, you just gotta be the fucking best version of yourself in order to not give the best with somebody else, but to just have the best time with somebody else.
Yeah, and again, like, even if, I know it's a little woo-woo, but really think about, you know, what are you putting out there that then's coming back at you? What are you attracting? Are you, right now, like, the best partner you could ever be? And if you're not, it's probably okay that you're not in a relationship. It's okay that you're exploring yourself and your options and who you want to be. It's okay to be single and really thrive in it before you go try to meet like the man or woman or person of your dreams.
It will happen one day eventually, but you also have to like get out there and try, and you know, just don't follow this bullshit that's going online to the T, like with these fucking, you know, like how to figure men out. You know, you gotta figure yourself out. Like there's gotta be more, like figure yourself out. Where's that magazine?
No, we should write that magazine. Find yourself out.
Yeah, like, you know, like here's your shit, figure it out, and then just have a fucking coffee mug with a piece of shit on there. Like this is your shit. Figure it out.
Figure it out. No, I agree. But yeah, I mean, stop buying into the idea that like singledom is this fearful, horrible thing, or that you're unlikable, or that no one loves you and you're unattractive or you're uncompatible, and that's why you're single. You're probably single because you need to work on some stuff, or you're figuring shit out, or you haven't met the right person yet. All of those are valid and okay and should be embraced.
They should be. So thank you guys for listening.
This has been Coffee and Catastrophe with Brent and Gabi. You can like us on Twitter at CCWBG. We're on Facebook at Coffee and Catastrophe. You can follow us on iTunes, Stitcher, Castbox, and we are still working on getting stuff up to YouTube.
So thank you guys very much for listening, and please interact with us on social media. Leave a comment, you know, give us a suggestion for an episode, just ask a question, just, you know, hey, even plug our page. You know, we're still trying to get out there, but, you know, we like doing this every single week. Mm-hmm. So if you're single, hey, man, you got a fucking Pringle. But if you already mingled with someone, then I don't know a rhyme for that. I'm just kind of fucking up the ending here.
That's okay. I still love you.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Bye, guys. Take care and be good to each other.
Goodbye.